here to lead us off as we discuss advanced cultivation technologies. To lead this panel from McIntyre Creek Cannabis Incorporated, all the way from Kelowna, British Columbia, out in the beautiful Pacific Northwest woods of Canada. Let's hear it for Quinn Shiskin. Quinn Shiskin, everybody.
Awesome. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back after lunch. We got a great panels of experts here and a diverse mindset of how we're advancing cultivation technologies. My name is Quinn Shiskin. I'm the president of McIntyre Creek Cannabis, Inc. We're a GACP certified outdoor cannabis outfit located in the heart of BC Cannabis in Kelowna, British Columbia. We grow about 150,000 plants currently, and we have 2 fields that are rapidly expanding and growing some high-quality cannabis that is being used in solventless extraction, live resin extraction, packaged flower, and pre-rolls. We've seen the dynamics of constantly innovation, always thinking of quality first, and then thinking of how we lower our costs through advancement in technology and really make quality stand out in the forefront, but also trying to get lower that cost on a cost per gram basis. So today we got a panel of experts, and we'll get right into it, and they'll do a slight introduction. We'll just go down the row here, starting with Franz.
Hi everybody, my name is Franz Josef Siemer. I'm from Austria, working now for 15 years in the cannabis industry and work for Fluence LED, one leading lighting company in the cannabis space from the US.
Max.
My name is Max. I work at Royal Queen Seeds. I'm the technical manager, and I supervise productions and also breeding programs.
I'm Mikhail Segal, president of TSR Grow from out of the United States. We have advanced, smart-powered advanced LED lighting solutions where we have developed a system to drive lighting from centralized power servers, and excited to be here. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alberto Piga. I'm the founder of BC Cannabis Inc. and BC Can. We're an EU GMP ready facility in British Columbia, in Nanaimo, British Columbia. I know quite a bit about cannabis. We won the Top Grower Award in 2021 in Canada for cannabis cultivation. We're here today, and I really thank you that we are here in your beautiful country of Germany, and thank you for having us here today, especially ICBC and Alex Rogers for putting on this special event here. Thank you.
My name is Rui Soares. I'm founder and CEO of Paralab. We are in business for 33 years, working initially mainly at Iberian level for the pharma industry in terms of quality assurance and process instrumentation. And since legalization of medical cannabis in Portugal, we start also working with process equipment for post-harvest and extraction purification, and a little part in terms of bioburden contaminations control in the production area of cannabis. We work around all Europe, Africa, Israel, and Latin America.
Great. Well, we have a great mindset here of different individuals, but let's start talking about our first lighting innovations here. I think there's a lot of discussions on LED and all the different technologies coming out, but Franz, maybe we'll talk first about spectral tuning and what LEDs are doing to improve yields and sustainability in cannabis cultivation. And next to that, as you go through, how is it critical that the human expertise is in place before we're optimizing these LEDs? Can you please talk about that?
Yes, so first of all, I need to mention that Fluence has done extensive research over the past 12 years. We also have our own research principle in our company. We do research in Europe in 4 major institutions: Inexo, Wageningen, Cultivation for Compounds, and as well, sorry, the 4th one just got Vertify, sorry, Vertify, of course. And we have put a lot of research in finding out what's the right light intensity, what's the right spectrum for cannabis, you know, the photon receptors of the cannabis plant, how much red can the plant really absorb, you know, metabolize. This is very important. That obviously factors in with what we call photoacclimation, where we basically take from the clone or mother plant, clone, veg, flower, acclimatize the plant to the right light intensity and therefore get the most yield and bang for the buck, basically, out of the crop.
Yeah, it sounds like the advancements are pretty incredible there. How about you, Franz? What are you guys seeing there in your advancements in TSR Grow?
I think you know, one of the things that we all know, this industry is challenging to make money, especially in cultivation. You know, in the U.S., it's what 26, 27% are profitable, and I tell all of my clients, and we're talking and consulting, that if you're not investing in anything that's affecting your bottom line and helping your bottom line, don't bother. And the most important thing is to really bring forward solutions that are going to help you lower your costs. So that you can produce higher quality cannabis and make more money. And this is through recipes. You know, when we're talking to them about developing recipes for specific strains, for delivering, you know, the specific amount of power and light output, along with, you know, spectrum as well. But be very specific and intentional about how you're delivering your power for your genetics and what you're growing, so that you can optimize that and be repeatable and consistent. We all know that that's a huge issue, as well as the consistency in being able to grow the same thing over and over again. And some testing labs, if you fail that consistency, they can shut you down. So this is a key piece, and this is what we're driving home and is really critical to cultivation.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Albert, you got a new GMP facility you've been building out, and lighting technology is super important when you're scaling into these new emerging markets. Tell us about your program and what you're seeing success in.
HVAC, super important. I mean, you have to be able to control your environment, your humidity, temperature. I mean, everything. It all goes along with lights as well, right? But we're not doing any lights. We're not growing anything in this facility. This is a production facility. It's a standard production facility. It's EU GMP ready, and we are GACP certified, and we're ready to come out here to Germany and you know, looking for a sponsor here to work with us. And yeah, so I mean, we have a state-of-the-art HVAC system there. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of money to build an EU GMP certified facility. It's literally like about $800 to $1 million per 1,000 square feet. So you can imagine the technology that's involved with the HVAC system and everything in there. I mean, the seed-to-sale software we have there. I mean, it's pretty incredible what's going on. So.
Yeah, nice. How about Max? I know you guys are doing amazing stuff in genetics in these F1 hybrid feminized seeds. What are you seeing the light and the different kind of facility build-outs? How are they impacting what you guys are designing and creating with your genetic portfolio?
So the idea we're mentioning before is what can reduce cost, right? And I believe everybody around here will say that cloning has a cost. It's also a must because it is repeatable. And for a long time, seeds haven't been something consistent enough to be seen as a genetic material. You would, hunt from it. So we started producing F1 hybrids, which are actually consistent seeds. We reached 90% consistency, THCs, values, height of the plants, nutrient consumptions. And again, that helps for the repeatability. So whenever you start with coming up with SOPs, from light SOPs, environmental control, nutrients, if one learns that you lose it, you need to readapt this. If you can have repeatable seeds, millions and millions out of them, you can reproduce them through years, this actually brings a gap and lower your cost.
Yeah, I really like that. At McIntyre Creek, we've seen the evolution of this as well. We started with the traditional cloning of plants, went into the tissue culture route, did a bunch of work in there as well, but we also went to the feminized seeds for a bunch of different avenues of increased production, stability and pathogen resistance, and the general cost per gram we've seen be lowered by having that consistency in these feminized seeds. But Max, maybe talking a little bit about that, how are you stabilizing these and really having those preservations of these parental lines into the hybrid seeds?
So we've got two different branches in Royal Queen Seeds and F1 Seed Tech, which is pretty much the same working companies and teams. It's we have one photoperiod, so the one that reacts with light, and non-photoperiodic. And both of them we're using tissue culture to keep your parental lines. But first, creating the parental lines was one of the first challenge. When the people integrate the team and started the F1 Hybrids program, they were like, okay, we're from the vegetable industry. We're going to look for parental lines to start breeding cannabis, right? And who has true parental lines around? And the cannabis industry was just being legal. So nobody had spent years to create a library of consistent parental lines, homozygous 98%, and start F1 hybrid program. Everybody was kind of like doing what they could with what they had. So first, like creating that parental lines that library took about 4 or 5 years without any results. Meaning no seeds coming out, nothing's to sell, just parental line testing, selfing a plant until it becomes homozygous enough, having DNA tools to help you understand what you're doing, which genes are corresponding to what, then starting to bank it, then cross it. So 5 years later, the first seeds start to come actually on the market. And we are very excited about the non-photoperiodic as well, which is the automatic. As a grower, as a passionate, I would always stay away from automatics. They were meaning shitty plants. I'm sorry to speak like that, but an automatic would be a very unpleasant plant to grow when you know what you're doing. And people proved me that this is just a sequence of a gene that can be put on your best genetics. So now actually that automatics I see, and I think you understand as well as a cultivation, that without the need of blackout, you can actually start harvesting mid-summer. And if you can have decent plants that meet your standards, you can repeat that and lower your costs and increase your production. So yeah, that's the whole work behind it. Automatic F1 hybrids, more consistency. Now we can start working light recipes and SOPs with light companies, nutrients, recipes with nutrient companies that actually matches every seeds that you plant with. And that becomes repeatable. And then you get this into a proper facility, outdoor, indoor, then it becomes simple. You actually lower your risks. So that is, genetics is a key in the parameter of like successful cannabis production.
Yeah, we totally agree with that. And where McIntyre is located in BC, we have the chance to do the two harvest production. And we're definitely looking at the autoflower varieties for this. And we see the market have that need. When we're looking for all the cannabis coming down in October, if we can offer all our clients something in mid-August and kind of go through that big outdoor glut and have that two harvest season, we can just see the production efforts and the scale kind of astronomically grow for us. Rui, talking about genetics, going on F1 seeds and traditional cultivation, you like doing early detection at Paralabs. Now, some of your clients, have you seen them shift from these different genetic types? And using your systems, where do you see the most advantages for early detection?
Well, it is true that if you have the right genetic, you manage to get production that is more resistant to diseases, to contaminations. But then, if you do not have the high-end, as you said very well, HVAC systems, even strongest genetics will not resist to avoid having contaminations. It's a mix of the best genetics and first-class HVAC systems that allow you to have a contamination-free production. Unfortunately, this is not the case, I think, in 95% of facilities. Either one or both are failing there, and then it comes to problems of contaminations. And yes, we have been in our area that we come from laboratory quality assurance area. For us, we have been offering solutions that allows the growers to have on same day microbiological analysis with a complete screening. So 95% of molds, bacteria, and microbes and viruses, they are analyzed. We have the results same day. And 4 or 5 strains of bacteria, you get the results in the next 24 hours. These need some incubation time. So this allows, especially for big productions, in, one day you have nothing. In 3 days you have total loss of production, to be able to act before, because you get every day updated data. You'd need a microbiology lab and a microbiologist or a biologist on company working. Is not for every production facility, but for certain capacities from further on, it makes all sense. It pays itself having these capabilities to have the early detection. This goes with reagent kits and real-time PCR, exactly the same technology that has been used with success for COVID tests, the most accurate tests, not fast tests.
Yeah, that's. I think those rapid PCR tests have made some big advancements in Canada as well. We've seen a lot of validated methods come out for that quick response and understanding what's happening with your plants. Early detection, I think, is super important for everybody. Early signs of pathogens and can be stopped if you detect it early. So the work you're doing is super important for everybody cultivating at this EU GMP level. Albert, how about in your system, cultivation winner of the year? What are you guys using in your system for that consistency, going to those high potencies, consistent flower, good micros? What's your program looking like?
It basically it's just what we call it is, in the legacy market. I've been growing weed for 25 years. I mean, I've had thousands of crops. We call it dialing in the room. So it's important you have genetics, correct? But you have to have your room dialed in every aspect of it. I mean, I can go on for hours about this, so I'm not going to go that long on it. But so that's very important. So HVAC, lighting, tables, the way the height is from your lights to your plants are, for the kind of food you're putting, the pH that you're putting in it. Each plant is individual, right? I mean, each genetic takes its own specific type of formula. So we have multiple different formulas and for each different genetics that we do phenome hunt for, and we document everything. It's quite a process, but it's fun, and if you like to grow, I mean, it's a dream job, right? I mean, so it is tough. I'm telling you, it's tough. It's not easy, but.
Yeah. So at TSR Grow, Mikhail, where are you seeing your clients? How are you best guiding them to set up these new systems, and how are you tying them in? Are you giving some LEDs to fertigation programs, to HVAC systems? Where are you seeing the most innovation happen in there to give people streamlined kind of packages to have successful grows? Because there's a big learning period, as we know, to grow cannabis, but it seems like a lot of the work that you and your company are doing are helping companies put the whole systems together and giving them guidance from start to finish.
Yeah, it's crucial, especially when you're building a facility too. Not only of what you're putting in, but you just to step back a second, you have to be also very intentional about what you're going to do in that facility, and know what you're kind of building that facility to do, or whether you're growing to for whether it's extraction or flower. But you can't build a facility and then hope to do everything in it. So we spend a lot of time working with customers to really identify and help them identify exactly what they need to spend money on in terms of building out and being able to operate at the lowest cost. And that involves integration of systems. It's crucial for the lighting to be very specific for what they're going to be doing, and you might have a different spectrum if you're growing for rosin versus flower, but and then also bringing in recipes. I think genetics are very crucial. Tissue culture, or even coming from first level tissue culture, or having your consistent moms that you then bringing to clone, and then driving that through, but then having specific light intensity recipes and also spectral recipes for that specific strain, and loading that in the room and being consistent, monitoring the environment, integrating that into the nutrients and the fertigation. So we have systems that can drive not only crop steering through nutrients and driving minimizing, or I should say maximizing the use of nutrients, as well as maximizing or minimizing the amount of photons you use to grow, and synchronizing that with the whole system allows you to operate and deliver the lowest cost to grow at the highest maximum yield. And that's really what we're trying to do, is deliver consistent quality product in a profitable way. And
just on another note too, in Canada, for LED lighting, they give you big grants. I mean, they literally, you get it for free, or at least 75% off. So I mean, this may happen in other countries at some point, but I think it's a really good point that the governments are trying to get you to get off these double-ended gavitas and all these high-pressure sodiums and all this type of stuff. But in reality, you have to compensate the HVAC heat for the no heat in the light, so these lights don't have any heat, right? Very little heat. You can almost put it right on the plants. So when you do that, you have to be able to compensate because the plants want to have heat, right? So they need to get heat into the HVAC. So you do that through your dehumidification systems, and then that will bring the heat in too. So there's it's a balancing act, right? It's not just you put a light in there and you put a HVAC system and all of a sudden you got plants growing. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, no, it's complexities of cultivation, and these plants are finicky to have it, and these indoor environments are super specialized to give the plant care we need. But we really want to talk a little bit more about these seeds with Max in the group here, as we've seen a lot of controversy, or not controversy, discussions about what's the best, and I'd like to have a little bit more discussions on where you're seeing the production savings, the increase in yield. Can you talk about some of your customers that have seen some success? As I talked to a really large outdoor cultivator based out of Canada, and they've switched about 70% of their production in greenhouse to seeds, and they've been producing about 10% less plants they're putting in the ground and seeing 10 to 20% increase on yield. So the switch is apparent on those factors, but I would like to hear about a little bit more about what you're seeing and your customers are asking about.
Okay, so the most impressive person we've seen and running our genetics is literally 1.8 kilograms of dried sellable flowers in 1 square meters. The plant stayed 60 days in the room and 15 days in nursery. Dialed that. Yep. Every 2 months you get an harvest, 1.8 kilograms per square meters, indoor.
Well, yeah.
There you go. That, if this number doesn't resonate to you, just like, you need to try it out. Like I said, when the quality, you will be able to do like the exotic taste, lock it in with the taste and the special lipids, the right, everything dialed in, the clone's gonna have trouble. The vigor of a seed is unbeatable. You can regenerate through tissue culture genetics. Your clones for your super ultimate mother will be slower than a seed, an F1 hybrids. Seeds have the vigor, they've got the stand. One thing we talk about is what is your cost. So for me, it's 80% is genetics, 1/3 is the genetics, the other one is climate control, the one including lights, hygiene, and the last one is irrigation. 20% is your workforce. What costs you the most? Your workforce. So at the end of the day, you need those 3 rights, and you need your workforce, that is one of the most important costs, to be able to use your technology right, and then everything just flows. So that's really where I see it. Outdoor, we've got lower numbers, but still, like, people, like, they have trouble to believe what they see out of those seeds. I've been a bean clone user. I love my genetics. I love my mothers. I love my specific elite taste. But now I'm starting to realize that keeping a mother for 8 years, genetics, and trying to preserve it, it's a real pain. It's a real pain. And now that we're able to predict what's coming out of genetics, seeds are really making more and more sense. And yeah, for me, there will be a switch. In about 3 to 5 years from now, I think like clones will have lost 30 to 40% of the market, let's say, for many cultivators. Once people, they just try it, they understand, they reach some results, they're like, okay, man, at some point, the craft producer might be using clones because they have a specific, it's like wine, They have the specific batches, they can sell very high prices, but people that produce in terms of quantity or biomass, seeds will be the very, very hard to ignore answer. That's where I see it. And as a producer, you might say it.
Yeah, go ahead, Franz.
Maybe I can add to that a little bit, coming from the cloning industry in Austria. He's totally right, and we had a call up front before the panel discussion where we discussed that, and I can only echo Max, because it's very interesting when you're in a large facility environment where you keep multiple strains that should be, where the mother plants should be cut back every other week, every other second week, right? And now you have 10 different cultivars, not enough rooms, so I have seen some mother plants remaining neglected in the corner of the room, or maybe in a greenhouse. I remember in South Africa, I saw that. And then you go to the mother plants, open up the canopy, and there's moths flying out, and everything, and you're gathering powdery mildew, potentially. So, yeah, I understand. Limiting biomass in a large-scale facility is definitely a big help, right? And you save also on the personal costs.
Just on that note, so there's these things called tissue cultures, right? So you make tissue cultures, you put them in micro plugs, they're about this big. It's a plant now. That's a plant. So So what we do is take a tissue culture, bring it into a mother, and then you take the first clones off. That would be called the first gen clones. So when those clones come out, they're usually 100 times better than any other clone. So when you start taking mothers and cutting them and cutting them and cutting them and cutting them, your genetics start getting less and less and less and less good. So when you have a tissue cultured mother and you first cut off that tissue cultured mother, that will be the best genetics that plant will ever produce in its lifetime, right? This is what I found from growing many crops.
And you need to save it as soon as you create your plants, because the more you clone a plant, the more likely you lose some bit of DNA. And even through meristem culture, you cannot like reinvent that DNA. So keeping it in tissue cultures and generating mothers from that very clean is the key, right? But once you've degraded, tissue culture is not going to bring back what's lacking from your plants. That's just to make it clear. Or somebody prove me wrong.
And there's also viruses that could come too, right? Like, we could get into details, but we're not talking about that right now. But that's important to remember also. When you get a tissue cultured mom, it's a clean mom, it's a fresh mom. There's no diseases in it yet. So the only way we get a disease if your facility had diseases and you brought it in to the facility, then you cross contaminate, and you have a major issues. And so we're right on point here.
Yeah, I think it's pretty incredible what the plant can handle and what it does, but I'd really like to switch gears here a little bit to talk about some automation and maybe some AI and how we're bringing these into our cultivation programs. At McIntyre, we've kind of been working on for a few years now, bringing drones into our outdoor cultivation space. So we've been programming and setting models to be able to track for early detection and pathogens. So looking at chlorophyll in different ways to detect the potential of botrytis and powdery mildew, but also we've been planning to learn and train the models to look for early detection in males or hermy plants. So there's ways to look at using the drone to fly the field, doing the scouting, looking for that. There's always that chance of some seeds potentially popping up in an outdoor field and pollinating the field, which is definitely what we don't want. And the human interaction, the guys walking the fields, always been challenging. They could miss it. And we believe what we've been doing with this drone early at the end of last year, and then what we're bringing to this year is really going to advance us into that AI and automation. But I'd love to hear from any of you guys of how we're bringing it together, how your companies are supporting it. As a lot of people are talking about it and there's practical uses, but I think firstly we have to know how to understand the plant and what the plant needs on a human level before we can do this AI. But I'd love to hear how Fluence and Max and everybody, you guys are kind of doing automation.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm a big fan of AI and all the advantages, but when it comes down to cultivation, especially in a greenhouse for light intensity, the main point, honestly, is to have a good sensor that gives you live measurements. Then you need to close at a certain temperature your energy curtain, to keep the plants off the radiant heat. In the end, you want to always have the same light intensity in your flowering, right? As I said earlier, photo-acclimate the plants from wedge up to the ultimate flower, and then have your Priva, your Hogendorn, whatever, set to a certain micromole, and then adjust with the supplemental lighting to remain in that place, because it's all about consistency and homogeneous production, right? Especially in the pharmaceutical industry, and that's maybe something where I'm not too sure with the seeds, but you know better than me, Max, if you can stay in the plus minus 10% limit of THC, but you say that's possible, which I believe, because with the F1, it's a total different game since 1 or 2 years, right?
I guess that's not the topic, but even on the clone plants, the top flower, in the middle flower, the bottom flowers, they still have a variance, and that variance can be reapplied on seeds.
Yeah.
So,
good topic. That's why we have the inter-canopy lighting and the sub-canopy lighting, which is also a great innovation coming from COMEC, from viney crops, right? Long, stretchy plants, which we also see in cannabis. The most hybrids that we are growing at the moment, they are long, stretchy plants. And we work with top lighting, but we want to also dispense the light at the, let's say, ABC level of the plant. And that's how we even out those THC levels.
That's true. That's a good way. You can do this with automatic as well, so you get actually more consistency. But on our side, for AI, we're using it for It's more of a sorting tool than an actual thing that's going to take decision. It helps us, and I want to say like AI without human in the production of plants is useless. Like you need a human interaction to teach the AI and to use it as a tool. And you know, DNA sequencing, plants matching, and sorting and everything. AI is a real tool. It helps you sorting out. It doesn't take yet the decisions. But maybe in a few years, you know, AI will be able to tell you if that cannabis tastes good or not, or it's going to grow with or not, and I don't have a job anymore. So, but yeah, we're using a bit of AI, but not decisional AI. Still mainly relies on human assumption.
Got it. Alan, Mikhail?
We see a lot of times where we're using intelligence, but in indoor grows, a lot of times you see rooms being done on averages. So not a lot of work, not a lot of information on microclimates and other analytics in terms of what's going on inside of a facility, inside of a room. You typically have not enough sensors to gather the information about different locations, as well as in terms of lighting control, having you know, the inner canopy, perimeter lighting, and top lighting, all of those things coming together, but then having, you know, 1 or 2 dimming zones controlling the intensities when you may have more than 2 strains in a room. So by being able to segregate, isolate, and really understand the microclimates around what's going on, and then taking in the, you know, the intensities and the photons that are being delivered to the plant, and then looking at the strains, we can now start to look at AI and start to develop an understanding based on what the results were of the lab on what is really the best environment and an output for growing that particular strain. And then you can start to predict what are going to be some of the outcomes, or with the fertigation and some of the light levels based on the microclimates that are going on. AI down the road could make decisions or help adjust or suggest adjustments to light levels to compensate for variances in those climates. So these are, and then, you know, tying those into some of the intelligent, you know, Hugendorns and other things, but really analyzing and getting down to that granularity. That's critically important, and that's going to help drive. It's horticulture. We've got to be running at the lowest cost possible. I mean, at the end of the day, and any of these technologies got to drive that cost down.
Yeah, that's what we're maintaining, stabilizing quality, and getting more efficient, and lowering cost per gram seems to be the theme on everything we're doing in this industry. But Albert, do you guys want to talk? Ree, do you want anything in automation?
Well, just AI, I mean, it's a new thing. We use it to write SOPs at our facility for the EUGMP sort of, you have to have. Yeah, otherwise you're sitting there with a pen and you know, trying to write an SOP. You just say, hey, I broke a light, I need an SOP. Boom, it comes up with an SOP. It makes things a lot easier. I mean, so that's what it does.
Yeah, it definitely helps in that. The documented that is McIntyre does some unique things. We do a lot of soil sampling and topographical maps of our field to really look at our soils at multiple depths, and then look at our water results and punch it into AI to look at different kind of fertigation recipes and plant health specifications, and really just helps crunch the data and understand and back up the data from our master growers. They all know it, and punching into AI really gives us another kind of purview and another look. How about Ree? What are you guys doing in automation and supporting guys in your machines?
Okay, it's not, so we are talking here this talk is about cultivation technologies.
Yeah.
We have lots of automation in our other areas, in post-harvest and in extraction and purification. It goes from trimming systems that go more and more with AI, to take the human factor in terms to decide is this a well-trimmed bud or not, to have the machines taking this decision, even in time to come, to take the buds that are not okay automatically out of the conveyors. This is something that will happen in next few years. And in terms of extraction and purification, that is going very high, and it's communication entirely with the system in terms of keeping inventory, production levels, everything updated and tuning on same time. Not so much in automation, but coming here on the cultivation technologies. What we have been working and seeing and growing fast is, despite of all cares to avoid contaminations, having the right strains, the right instrumentation, sometimes, many times maybe, end up having contaminations. And to prevent contamination, technologies that actually kill pathogens, microbes, bacteria, molds. This has been getting big developments recently, that these technologies have been used with success in indoors using very small amounts of ozone, hydrogen peroxide, and reactive oxygen and other free radicals that are very active in terms of killing pathogens, but at very low concentrations so that people can safely work in these environments. This has been working well in indoors, but failing dramatically in terms of greenhouses. But new advances that take a different approach, not 24/7, so not working continuously, but case by case needs an analysis of each greenhouse in terms of also the external climate, what is generating the conditions that lead to periods of the day in which are more, is more common to be on those periods that contamination start developing. Together with this technology, it's possible to decrease enormously the risk of contaminations. At the same time, these technologies, because they have the capacity to remove terpenes from the air, you may think, oh no, I'm losing my terpenes. No, the plant is alive. The plant is stressed. Actually, it will react. It produces even more terpenes. So together with the infection and maintaining contaminations low, you are protecting your operators, because who works continuously in a greenhouse, in a flowering room, many times they start developing allergies to terpenes. This is an issue. So if you keep terpenes levels low in the air, it's good. And because you are breaking the equilibrium between what is in trichomes and what is in the air, the plants will react, producing more terpenes. So we end up getting more terpenes in plant by using this technology. So it's a win-win. Win-win in terms of less
we talk about ozone
contaminations.
Ozone technology? Or?
Ozone, hydrogen peroxide,
Understood.
reactive oxygen, so all kind of what we call plasma, but in very, very low concentrations. So cannabinoids effect zero, terpenes, it ends up increasing because you are stressing the plant, and at the same time decontaminating. This has been using for a long time in indoors. In greenhouses, it's working now. People tried, failed, but now it's working. New advances in this technology.
Yeah, that's great. Appreciate that insights there. Let's go to the crowd, though, if we have any questions. We have a few minutes left here.
Let's hear it for the panel one time. Very exciting, good stuff. Does anyone have any questions, or you're all fully educated? I don't see any hands. Oh, one person. All right. Quickly, we have 3 minutes. Really like 2 minutes.
Really quick to Max. Oh, I get the microphone too. Yeah, you're talking about your, 2-month harvests and 1.8. That's pretty impressive. But relate to the speed breeding and seed to seed in that same environment. Why don't you do that? You're talking about stabilizing genetics over 7 years. Well, it sounds like 1.5 years is.
That's with auto, and to be honest, it takes time to do actual building up parental lines. And when you start from scratch, no, of course now we're much quicker to put out new parental lines. And thinking about, I said 15 days in the nursery, 2 months in your production room. So actually it's still a 75, and that's only for non-photoperiodic genetics. So yeah, it's actually, now with speed breeding, it's much easier now, but to build up that bunch of parental lines took a long time. We started from scratch, literally. We're like, kind of, where do we start?
So now you can.
Now we can, now it's the beginning of our era. It's like now everything starts to flow. And it's been only 2 years we're on the market, and now we come with 6 strains. In about 2 years, we should have 20. It's super hard when I see all the competitors with F1 hybrids. They've got like 50 strains. I was like, how many parental lines do they have? How many good matching they do, you know? Maybe other question? Somebody else? Is that okay?
We're actually out of time.
If you could give me a nice male seed, I'd appreciate it.
We don't.
No male seats. I think we're pretty much out of time. We got to wrap it up. Let's hear it again for the panel. I'm sure they'd love to talk to you outside in the hallway. If you have more questions, we'll get you stand up, you take the picture, we'll do the thing. This is the International Cannabis Business Conference in Berlin 2025.